All right, Dad. I'm going online now. Remember, please don't use the phone. It kicked me off, remember?
Welcome. You've got mail.
Winter is coming.
For the night is dark and full of terrors.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
Vala Morgulis.
You stand in the presence of Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, rightful Queen of the Andals and the First Men, protector of the Seven Kingdoms, the Mother of Dragons, the Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, the Unburnt,
3 hours later.
the Breaker of Chains.
Winter is here.
Oh, God, do I love that. Welcome back, everyone, to the Nerd Bros Assemble podcast, which is now officially named Nerd is the Word. But before I go any further, I just want to say a big thank you to Ronald Jenkees. He is the man. I emailed him not too long ago and asked permission to use his song, Throwing Fire, and he said, go for it. So big thank you, Ronald Jenkees. You, sir, like I said, are the man and definitely a nerd bro.
I just want to add to that. I've made 2 posts on Instagram tagging him, saying that I was listening to his stuff, jamming out to his stuff, and he commented on both of them within 24 hours.
Yeah, he's the best. He really is. So, continuing on, when listening to our intro, you should have deduced by now that we will be talking about Game of Thrones. However, that is not the only thing we'll be talking about. You'll learn a little bit about each of us today, as we unearth our stories on how our nerd journeys began, and when we realized we fell deeply in love with our selected genres, how that's shaped us, and what stuck with us, being what we're currently into now. Later in the show, we'll have a roundtable discussion about the upcoming season and seasons past of the cultural, worldwide phenomenon Game of Thrones. Quick disclaimer here, this will be a show-only discussion. There are a myriad of topics from our favorite characters, seasons, and episodes to who our picks are to sit on the Iron Throne, theories prevalent found online, where some alliances may lie, and who is still alive. Will the realm be shrouded in darkness and cold and ice? Will we see the rise of Azor Ahai? Will Arya wear Littlefinger's face? Is Dany pregnant? Will Theon, Theon, get his dick back? All of these questions, or none of them, will be answered today. So beware, this podcast is dark and full of spoilers. I am joined by my great friends and fellow podcast mates, me being Tim, the Podmaster. I'm surrounded by Brian, Peter, and arbitrary man himself. He has made a return, John. Hi, say hi to everybody. How's it going?
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
All right. How's everybody doing today?
We're good. We're doing, excuse me, very good. We're very good.
I'm doing fantastic.
What y'all been up to?
Oh,
Anybody?
Nothing much.
Keeping it nerdy.
Keeping it nerdy?
Of course.
sure,
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
I've been watching essentially nothing but Game of Thrones for the past week and a half, 2 weeks.
Getting all set up, ready to go as far as, what we're doing.
Yeah, with the occasional, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, palate cleanser, when I need a little, just change of
Death and
emotions.
Gore.
What about you, X? What have you been up to?
Same thing, different day, man. Reading comics.
Anything good?
Yeah. Daredevil's really good right now. Doctor Strange really good right now.
Yeah.
The Avengers is always good.
Yeah, I gotta get. I know you handed me that Daredevil series. I gotta get on that.
Yeah, The Man Without Fear. It's a 5-part series leading up to his new run, so it's pretty cool.
That's dope. Pete, what have you been up to, man?
Well, you know me. I'm always down for a good movie. But
Yep.
I mean, I started off watching a lot of Orville lately, which is pretty good. I've actually got into that.
The real successor to The Next Generation, if my personal opinion, if I'm just gonna throw it out there.
So they say, and I enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. So And a couple of new movies recently that I've seen. Oh, a few weeks back I watched Skyscraper with Dwayne The Rock Johnson right there. That's that was a masterful work. And then just last week actually I watched The Meg with Jason Statham.
Oh,
that's that is a true.
You were making the rounds, huh?
I really was. I just decided, well, you know what? I'm gonna torture myself here.
My dad I was at his house the other day, and he was bringing up, like, oh, I want to see this movie. It's called, it had the guy from the Transformer in it. Is it, I'm like, The Meg? He was, yeah, The Meg. I'm like, I was like, yeah, it's not viewed as a very good movie. And then we looked up the Rotten Tomatoes and saw it was less than 50%. And he's like, oh okay. He's like, I still kind of want to watch it.
Jason Statham came out on record saying that it was supposed to be like a funny movie, and I guess I don't know if that was true, if they changed the direction, but I mean, Pete is personally he loves to watch these terrible disaster movie type things. He's known for it. Pete and I lived together for a few years back, and I learned a lot about him when it came to that. He loves his terrible disaster action movies, and I gotta honestly say I'm right there with him. I just haven't had the chance to watch this one.
I mean, it goes right along with our podcast 2 weeks ago on the movies that you like, but people generally don't like. So
yeah, I kind of carried it over from there.
So yeah, what did you eventually think about it?
Well, I mean, it's not overall a great movie, obviously. So you go into it not expecting, anything that's gold. To be honest with you. It's Deep Blue Sea meets every single Jaws movie, and maybe something else thrown in there. So they covered all those basics. At the same time, though, the science to it and all those little goofy things were fun. And I was like, oh, okay, it's dumb, but they made it enjoyable enough, believable enough to make it entertaining. But the problem is that Jason Statham's in it, and he ruined the movie. He ruined it.
I love Jason Statham though as an action movie star. He was, he kicks ass. He really is. He's good in The Expendables. He was good in The One with Jet Li. Yeah, but
he's
yeah,
good if he's like fighting somebody, but not if he's trying to track a shark.
Right. What about you, Arbitrary Man? Where have you been? What have you been up to? What have you been doing?
Oh, nothing terribly interesting. I've been working my way through Future Man on Hulu.
Great series.
I started that.
I'm enjoying it. Also found myself wasting some time playing Farm Simulator 19.
Farm Simulator? You growing carrots or corn or
wheat mostly, because that's fairly inexpensive to start up in. Hoping to get to beets someday, but you need a lot of machinery.
Dwight Schrute over here with his beet farm.
By the way, bears beat beets. Therefore, bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Beats bears.
Right.
Battlestar Galactica.
And as for myself, you guys know I've been doing a lot of miniature painting. I've been doing a lot of crafting, getting together stuff for the podcast. Obviously, we all work together on that. And just generally crafting our Dungeon and Dragons sessions that we've been playing. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. Oh, on top of that, I have been rewatching The Orville as well. I love that show. And continuing with the sci-fi theme, I got back into The Expanse. The Expanse, by the way, is probably, I'm going to say it, I think it's the best sci-fi television show that I have seen in a long time, especially when it comes to the realistic aspect of the ships and the movement throughout space.
The first season was epic.
It's the second season was great. This third season just kicks it up a notch. If you guys, people out there, friends here, if you haven't watched it, it's on Amazon Prime. I know you don't. If you have Prime, you might as well watch it. It's worth it, especially if you're a fan of the genre. You will not be disappointed. I absolutely love it. My wife loves it. So, she's not into everything that I'm into. We watch a lot of stuff together. I'm lucky to have a woman who, she'll watch the nerdy things. And how many times have we all watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy? I mean, I think I'm on my 17th time. That pales in comparison to somebody else I know.
Oh, of course.
John over here.
17.
I was going to say the number of times is arbitrary.
But then, perfect. And on that segue, we're going to jump right to our bios. I want to talk a little bit about introduce people to us. We talked about our favorite, things that people hate that we love, and it gave a little bit of insight into who we each are. But in order to do this, we're going to have to roll for discussion, which is going to be a new segment we do here. Hopefully you guys can hear that. We have the handy dandy dice tower. So what I'm going to do is we're going to roll these dice. Each get a D20. because I am the podmaster, of course. And we're going to find out who's going first. And then we will go from that situation. So here we go. All right, looks like I'm starting out. Oh, wow. Okay. So we have me. So I'm going to start off with what I grew up on. So how I knew. Growing up, we had one television in the house. And I actually talked about this last time. I'm sure we had like other TVs and stuff in your room. Most of them were black and white. And I grew up in the 90s, born in the mid 80s. So I used to watch the Batman 1960s with Adam West. And I realized that because I used to talk about it and play on the playground as Adam West Batman. And kids made fun of me. And I had no idea why. I thought everybody loves Batman, right? But, you know, I watched that when my sister wanted to watch, Saved by the Bell. And they were on at the exact same time. And it was a battle. From then, she won usually because she was bigger than me. I was actually, that's another thing. I was the smallest kid growing up. I had asthma, so I was really short, and so I got picked on, those sorts of things. You know, it's your typical nerd. From there, I kind of fell into comic books way back when, and the comic books, no surprise, were Batman and X-Men. I loved X-Men comic books, and in the 90s and late 80s, the X-Men comic books are undoubtedly probably the best comic books that have ever been written. They pretty much carried Marvel through that period in time, the X-Men. But more specifically, Wolverine, he was my man. Moving on from there, it was kung fu movies. Growing up in my house, there were only certain things that were allowed. Fantasy was not in the picture. Parents were, quite religious, so anything that had to do with magic or anything like that was shot down. So Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy movies, games like Zelda, they were not on the table. But for some reason, my father was into martial arts, so I got to watch Kung Fu. Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, you name it. Crazy Fists, Shaolin, all those sorts of things. From there, I would sit down and watch Star Trek The Next Generation with my old man. How many times I watched the original trilogy of Star Wars. Back then, Jedi was my favorite, but we all know that the best movie really is
Phantom Menace.
That's right. Phantom Menace is obviously the best.
No, it's Empire, baby.
Oh, yeah, it is Empire. Right.
It is, of course.
And typical kid stuff, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, everybody was into that when I was a kid, as well as Power Rangers, and the all-encompassing Saturday Morning Glory. We had the best Saturday morning cartoons growing up back then. So growing up a little older, I got into fighting games, racing games, side-scrolling arcade games, basically anything that you could really go to the arcade and play. I grew up in a time when you could still put 2 quarters on the Mortal Kombat machine when someone was fighting, and then hop in and then play. And so that's basically where I got my start. So since then, I've developed into a love for fantasy as I got older, and I realized that, hey, look, there's this whole other genre out there. I need to ingest as much as I possibly can. And I can thank my friends here for pestering me for years, really, until
it took so long
to play Dungeons and Dragons. That's actually how one of the ways that I met my good friend now, John, is through another friend of ours. Technically, his name is Tim as well. We got together and played Dungeons and Dragons together, and it's been pretty much downhill since then. I've swallowed what is it, the red pill? I'm all in on it. So
D&D red pill.
D&D red pill. Maybe that's another segment. But anyway, that's me. I personally that's my loves, and I can go in depth at any of the time of these topics, but we don't have to go crazy. I'm gonna kick it actually over now to Brian, because he rolled the next highest with a 17.
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah, like you and I'm sure everyone in this room and some people listening, the 90s cartoons, the Batman animated series, Spider-Man, X-Men, those are a given. But before that, my dad played D&D. And that's how I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons. So my dad is as much as he doesn't look like it on the surface, like he plays guitar, he's been in bands.
He's a giant nerd.
He's a giant nerd. I mean, he grew up reading The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. His buddy loves the history book, the Silmarillion.
Yeah, Silmarillion.
Yeah, he's read it several times. My dad couldn't. At least he couldn't get through that. Like, there's that.
John, do you know when that was written? We'll find that out in a minute.
So my dad introduced me to things like the Hobbit 1977 animated movie, which I was actually just listening to some of the songs on YouTube because they're awesome. I know some people have a hard time if they do know about it and try to watch it because South Park did the Lemmy Winks and they just parodied all the music.
Lemmy Wings. Yeah, I mean it's perfect.
But like it's just I don't know. I'm like at home with watching that.
Yeah, you're comfortable. You feel a sense of nostalgia. You feel that the warm fuzzies that come with everything when it comes to that.
And that production company and the animation company that made that, the movie that came out afterwards, which I think they called it The Two Towers, which I thought was kind of silly, but it encompassed the first 2 books of Lord of the Rings. Different manufacturer, different company, different animators. Terrible. Lord of the Return of the King came out. They went back to the Hobbit animation production studio and voice actors. And it was great again.
So there was a misstep and an automatic correction.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
So I mean, I had movies like that, The Labyrinth, which that was I'm not sure the year it came out, but
starring David Bowie in his bulge.
In his bulge, and Jim. It was a Jim Henson production, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
Labyrinth came out in 1986.
Oh, see, and I also came out in 1986. So. Brought to you by my parents.
That's good.
But movies like Willow, which, all fantasy.
Willow.
And as I said in the last podcast, The Masters of the Universe was a movie that I loved when I was a child growing up because I loved He-Man, watching the He-Man cartoon. I mean, I wasn't there for really new episodes is what I was watching, but it was in syndication when I was young.
Doesn't matter if you weren't there for new episodes.
Them and the Turtles, Turtles came out in the mid 80s too, like the late 80s, so, but that was huge for me in those live action shows. So, but then when I was in high school, my father introduced me to Dungeons and Dragons, and Pete as well. We had a little homebrew game going on in my basement. My dad.
Yeah, we were what, teenagers probably.
Absolutely, my dad dungeon mastering, and I remember distinctly one night. It was in the winter, and it was snowing. There was probably a foot of snow somewhere around that outside. And it's still snowing, and it's midnight.
Right.
And my dad looks at me and everyone else and goes, "Guys, I'm kind of hungry. You know what? Cheeseburgers and hot dogs?" We all said sure. And he went outside, made grilled cheeseburgers and hot dogs because this is New England and we grill no matter what the weather is. Like so long as you're not getting blown away by wind, we'll grill. So he made a giant tray of hamburgers, hot dogs, toasted buns, the whole spiel. And then we continued playing because we were having so much fun. It didn't matter that he was like 40-something years old. He was enjoying himself.
Hanging out with his son.
Hanging out with his son. Now, I'm involved in a bi-weekly game of Dungeons and Dragons, and as a little teaser, we'll be releasing soon a second podcast that's going to be focused on our Dungeons and Dragons adventure. We'll probably start it off with an episode just kind of explaining the story because we're heavy into it. A lot's going on, but there's a lot left for us to do. So it'll be good, and we'll release that every other week. So there'll be this podcast, and then we'll have an adventure podcast in between.
That's right.
That and Tim is as he's the pod master for tonight. He's the dungeon master for our adventure that he's writing himself and doing a fantastic job, if I do say so myself.
That's really nice. Thank you. I do appreciate it. We're going on, a year now with the same adventure?
With the same adventure, yes. When he showed us the map and explained how far it took to get from one city to another city, I went in my head, oh, okay, so we'll be playing this for a few years. Not complaining, just understanding how things work.
No, characters have died since then. Yeah, it is what it is. But hey, it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun doing it. And it's a good way to keep me distracted from, what else is going on.
The biggest thing for me is that, well, at least when it comes to like the nerd culture and the people that are consider themselves to be a part of it, I feel like these are some of the nicest people that you can group of people in the world. I mean, if I go out and I'm wearing some nice clothes, just regular nice clothes, no one short of close friends and family will give me any compliment on my shirt or anything. But if I'm out and I'm wearing some sort of nerdy shirt, I'm wearing a Dragon Ball Z shirt, I'm wearing a Game of Thrones, a dress, whatever, I'll get, hey man, awesome shirt. And I'll get that multiple times, especially if I'm out in the city.
Oh yeah.
And it's just that's something you don't get with other groups of people. And
no, it's really is an accepting group.
Yeah, exactly. So that is Brian.
X, you rolled a 16.
It's kind of weird. This is going in order.
I know, it's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's almost like it was planned. Professor X, you are up next. What got you going? What?
If I had to be honest, I would say it was the after school cartoons, being X-Men, The Amazing Spider-Man, Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah.
Those there was also Superman. People really slept on that. The Superman had the Batman Superman crossover.
It was the same studio, I think,
it was
right?
like the same artist and everything, same studio, just Superman stories, and it was pretty cool. At the time, I was into it. But yeah, those were really big for me, and because of Spider-Man, actually, it's like my very favorite thing ever. I really saw that, like, he had all the cameos. Like, anybody who watched Spider-Man in the 90s knows constantly people were showing up randomly, like Silver Surfers and Wolverine. They just had so many, Punisher, Daredevil, Luke Cage, like so many random characters, and I'm just watching. I'm like, who is this guy? Yeah, like, who's this person? Cloak and Dagger, Black Cat. I'm like,
it was the Pandora's box to the Marvel Universe.
Yeah,
yep.
Like it just gave you an episode of them doing something crazy, and then they were like, all right, thanks, Spider-Man, and they were gone. And it's like, who's that? Why does he do that? Who? Like, you know what I mean? I wanted to know. So because of that made me seek out more knowledge on that stuff.
So who's your favorite Spider-Man villain?
Favorite Spider-Man villain?
Yeah, at least in the animated series from back then.
I'd probably have to go with Venom.
Yes.
Because back then it was like, holy crap,
Yeah.
This is like a muscular out version of Spider-Man with huge teeth and tongue, and to know that it was Flash, Peter Parker's everyday like bad guy anyway. So it's like it's double villain almost.
It was drawn so well,
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like cartoons in general have just kind of taken, at least the hand-drawn, cel-shaded cartoons have taken a real step backward. Everything just seems a little bit
less effort.
Yeah.
And I'll have to say too, for my age, I think that helped me mature, I'll say, because Spider-Man's wit in that show was very, very sharp, very smart, very like almost modern to a point.
I thought you were going to talk about how thick Rogue was.
No. I mean, like...
That's only because she absorbed Captain Marvel.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Something about the accent. Yeah, she was...
hilarious.
Yeah, no, her physique didn't change when Captain Marvel came back out, so that's fine.
But yeah. So I feel like it made me a little more hip. Like it made you older than you should have been, or made you know things like the animated series. Batman, the animated series, was pretty dark at times, had some pretty crazy storylines that like you shouldn't think an 11 or 12-year-old should be sitting in here taking this stuff in,
Yeah.
So that helped. But pretty much that was my intro. That's what made me go into comic books. Like I said, wanting to know more about these random characters that make cameos. Batman, the animated series was good for that too. I think like Huntress, would randomly show up and you're like, who the hell's that? Catwoman, they had their 1 or 2 off episodes and you're like, all right, I want to know about these characters. So
absolutely.
So what is your favorite, what was, growing up reading the comics, what was your, what'd you like the best? What was your favorite, like, run?
My favorite run growing up reading comics, I'd have to say it was a little later in my time with comics, but it definitely like changed my mind frame on everything. It was the initial Civil War run that Marvel did. As far as comic books alone, that was insane because it was the first time I was given several angles to one story.
Yeah, for me it was the Dark Phoenix saga.
That was a good
when
one.
when that first came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it blew my mind. I mean, Phoenix is just a little OP to begin with.
Yeah. Well, it's a cosmic entity. It's not supposed to be something that's like used against any hero that we're seeing.
Exactly.
So it's always like, yeah, she's kind of unstoppable. But yeah, that storyline, the whole Steve Rogers versus Tony Stark, is a little different in the comic books than it was on the movies. But for people who read it, they know how like immense the situation was. There was a comics called The Illuminatis, which consisted of Professor X, Doctor Strange, T'Challa, Namor, Tony Stark, and Reed Richards. It's like the smartest people in the MCU, the most powerful, like people who can move. Oh, Black Bolt. Sorry, can't not mention the Black Bolt.
Well, I
as
mean,
part of that as well.
Can't talk.
He can't really speak. Yeah, but amazing. Like first time I ever read something that made me think that much. You know what I mean? Usually it's just like, oh, this is cool. This guy should win. This guy loses. That was the one that's like, damn, who's really right here? You know what I mean? It made you think about something besides the winning and losing of the fight.
Absolutely. It's to delve deeper, you know? And that's kind of what, in my personal opinion, what Marvel Comics has always been able to do.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more so than DC.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit more of a head scratcher or a thinker, or, you know, it's the idea of, you know, I'm sure everybody here has heard it, you know, DC are gods trying to be humans, and the Marvel universe is it's humans trying to be gods.
Yeah.
And there's that struggle and that strive for that. Then you see more of their flaws, and more flawed characters make better stories.
Yeah, pretty much. And after from TV shows like, what was that, like Fox 25? You know, when all of them was like 8 channels or whatever.
You just gave away our location with the Fox 25.
The TV with the clicker.
Yep.
It's like you had to literally crank the TV to change channels. Like I bet people don't even know what that is.
You had the
anymore.
dial because the screen would be like like a loop.
That's right. It would get all fuzzy.
You speed it up and it'll go really fast, and then slow it down.
Tracking, I think. Yeah.
So once cable came out, there was that international channel that at like 12 at night they would play Dragon Ball Z in Japanese with no subtitles.
That's right.
But it was just so epic that I would stay up, watch that late at night. No idea what's going on, but just the pictures, hearing Goku sound like a woman, hilarious.
The funny thing is Dragon Ball Z was actually, back when I was 11 years old, I remember this. I actually forgot to mention this, so thank you. When I was 11 years old, it was on WB.
Dragon Ball,
yes. And Dragon Ball Z.
Was it?
It was the Ocean dub, which gave you the first intro into the Saiyan saga.
Yeah.
And it had that
different
Krillin, and a different Vegeta, and Vegeta's voice. I mean, everybody was different at that point, but he was much more crackly and aggressive. And you're right. Dragon Ball Z, and also Ronin Warriors and Speed Racer were all part of that block before Toonami came out on the Cartoon Network.
Also, later in the Fox years, there was stuff like Escaflowne.
Oh, yeah.
What there was some other really good shows.
John's nodding along. He agrees with that one.
Yeah. There was some really good like eye openers to the Japanese world of stuff, and then I was like, oh man. And then I got into manga, which is pretty much Japanese versions of comic books, but they're like Bible size.
And you're done. That's it.
From there.
Yeah, you read them upside down and backwards.
Exactly.
That. Yeah, I've never seen them in the store. I have no idea what the heck this is I'm looking at.
I was on to Naruto a solid 4 years before anyone in America even knew what Naruto was. Like,
he's a Naruto hipster, folks.
No, I mean, it was one of the really big shonen. I used to buy the Shonen Jumps actually back at Shaw's when they used to just have the magazine racks, and there wasn't bookstores really that were like close reach. It was like, oh, I'd save up all my money and get that Shonen Jump. Only like one chapter of the story, but still so worth it. You know what I mean? So
it's so funny to think about that. You know, the world we live in now. Like the other day, everything's so digital.
True.
I'm sure if you had PlayStation, I had PlayStation Magazine, PSM, and it would come every single month. And it was just Game Pro is the same thing.
Game Informer.
Yeah, they're gone. I mean, these things, I mean, they still exist, so to speak, but this type of media, the print, the physical hard copy stuff, it's all gone. I mean, I went to the store the other day because my dog destroyed my wireless mouse before we had our gaming session, so I had to run out. I couldn't find a mouse anywhere.
Yeah.
A wireless one. I was like, is everything literally so touchscreen nowadays that
why would you even need a mouse? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Sorry, I don't mean to segue. I was just a little.
No, yeah, but
ADD.
So that's those shows really, and Marvel definitely got me into the comics, and then the comics, cartoons into manga, huge Japanese manga fan. I read a lot. Like most of the shows that have come out, I've already read. And I'm like, oh, that's great. They're finally giving us a shot and they're making it a TV show. And for everyone, it's this new thing. And I'm like, that thing was written and the story's been done for so long. You guys are watching it weekly, like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, I know what happened.
So, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Are you a Naruto guy or a Dragon Ball guy? You got to choose one. I know.
I have to choose one.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing that's a little different here is what are we considering Dragon Ball? Because it's right now, it's like a corpse that's been dumped into the Lazarus pit.
Oh, Super is not bad.
No, but the fact that we're still talking about it ongoing is what I mean. Like it should have been, it has bolts in its neck at this point. Like,
yeah, I mean, it was supposed to die way back when Frieza was conquered.
Probably.
Then they brought it back for the
Cell Saga,
the Cell Saga,
the Buu Saga,
yeah, and then after it was supposed to be Gohan carrying the torch, and no one's like, no, we don't want Gohan. Screw that guy.
So much things have just been
right.
It's like people are just like reviving a dead horse essentially.
Yeah.
Naruto is done. Like Naruto, the story of Naruto is complete and over. And yes, at the end they stretched it with some stupid shit. That
oh my
I'm sure
god,
a lot
there's
of
so
people
much
would be
filler.
Like, why is this happening?
If I had to watch Obito and Kakashi and Rin one more time, I was gonna pluck my own eye out.
If we were to slice it, let's do it this way. If you take Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and slice out all the nonsense and just show the fights, and you do the same thing for Naruto, I'm going to pick Naruto just because the fights are so ridiculous.
Really?
Yes, Dragon Ball Z is cool, but we all know who's going to win. And we all see where it leads. There's never like, oh, he's poisoned and he has 12 minutes to get the win. It's just Goku's going to scream for 20 minutes and then he's going to kill whoever's in front of him. Whereas, Naruto is like, you could be essentially lost and then you're like, this was all planned for you to stand right here over my corpse. It's like, what? And he like pulls a string and it's like, haha, got you.
But Naruto will just rely on his shadow clone jutsu and then his most powerful jutsu, which is talk the person to death.
No, you got to remember the shadow clone jutsu is a forbidden jutsu. He was never supposed to learn that. That move was actually never supposed to be learned, period. Similar to Guy's 8 seal thing. Those are things people aren't supposed to do. They're not supposed it was a secret of the village or whatever. It's not like, oh, you should just be able to do this. They're
all right,
forbidden.
we gotta move on from Naruto because we got the whole show.
So all right. That being said, thank you for all that stuff that got me into comic books and whatnot.
Pete, what's up, man?
I don't know. What's up?
What got you going?
What got me going?
Yeah. What really gets you going?
What gets you going?
Really grinds your gears.
I guess, I grew up, I'm the youngest of four. So I think some of my earliest exposure to anything kind of nerddom was a lot of the toys that were passed down. So I remember my brother had like a whole bunch of the original Transformers. Nice. And I ended up with a bunch of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, action figures that were based off the cartoon.
Yeah.
I kind of just, I watched a lot of cartoons when I was young, and that kind of what caught me in. So it's like, okay, Saturday morning, WB,
WB Fox, it was the best.
Fox, one of the two. And as X had mentioned, Spider-Man. Spider-Man was huge. That was the one I watched more than anything. I really enjoyed the Batman animated series, and I really enjoyed X-Men. But Spider-Man was one of the things. I mean, my name's Pete. His name is Pete. Maybe that's like what initially did it or something. But I love the character of Peter Parker. He's kind of awkward and can't get his stuff together. Meanwhile, he's always going after like the hottest women in school. But you're supposed to like kind of pity him in a way because
he's punching above his weight class.
Yeah. But he always screws up because he's like, well, I just got to go save the world.
Yeah, bails on dates and whatnot.
Yeah, but he's hustling. He's doing it.
Well,
Mary Jane is.
Yeah.
I got a thing for redheads anyway.
I'm a Gwen Stacy guy, but that depends on the movies we're talking. But anyway, so yeah, I would say Spider-Man got me into it as far as cartoons and things like that. My older sister, I would say her and I have similar tastes in a lot of pop culture things, and she got me into Star Wars initially. And she owned, I own them now, the original trilogy on cassette before the special editions came out. The special editions came out in the late 90s. 97, I think, is when it started. So these cassettes were made probably 95, somewhere around there. And there was an interview before each movie with George Lucas and Leonard Maltin, who's basically a critic. So what they would do is they had probably about like a 25-minute block or a half-hour block, and they would just talk about the movie. And since the interview was made back then, it's so funny to watch it now. And Lucas is giving the hints to the to the future prequel that hasn't happened yet, but you know what's going to happen, you know, and
That's incredible. I may have to watch that.
It's pretty wild, and that's the last time I think the trilogy was released before any alterations were made, before any special effects were messed with at all.
Yeah, Disney, if you're listening, which you're probably not, or maybe you are for looking to ways to sue people, please just release us the original trilogy unedited. Take the extra scenes out.
Yeah, put it on Blu-ray.
Can we? Yeah, put it on Blu-ray, Laserdisc. I don't give a crap.
Laserdisc.
What is that? Special download? We just want the originals. I mean,
Absolutely.
enough.
No, it's really heavy with that. But you know, Empire got me into everything, of course, and
it's the best.
So from there, I've just evolved with different things. My father, oddly enough, my dad is really into. He's not into Japanese movies, but I think he finds them really entertaining. Like, he loves a lot of like Jackie Chan stuff because it just makes him laugh. So he got into stuff like he owned a couple of the Godzilla cassette tapes, and one of them was like the very first Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and the second one was like Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. And I had watched those like 100 times, and I just developed a love for giant monster movies. So now, I mean, if they're coming out, I watch it. Nowadays, it's crazy with this new Godzilla stuff coming out. It's blowing my mind right now.
You must be super psyched, yeah.
I mean, it's one of the, it's a strange feeling, and I think anybody as a nerd actually might be able to sympathize with this, because I wouldn't call myself like a hardcore Goji fan, as they like to say, but I really enjoy it. But now it's like, okay, new movies are coming out, so now it's almost like, well, I liked Godzilla before it was cool, and now Godzilla's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so you are a Godzilla hipster?
No.
I hate that word, by the way,
Yeah.
hipster.
Well, nevertheless, it's so yeah. Got into the monster movies, action movies. I really fell into, like, Demolition Man was one of the first that got me into those cheesy style action movies that I just love a lot.
You're on TV.
Absolutely, yeah.
And for those who don't
Swinging that
know,
into 'em.
yeah, he swung an old cathode ray TV into him for the young folks. That's the ones with the large backs on the front and the glass screens. It's a great movie.
Yes. It's nonsense but fun, and I kind of developed a love for that. And as we were talking about earlier, when I talking about how the recent movies that I watch, it's dorky, and I like it because I don't know. There's nothing wrong with watching a very serious drama or a serious war movie or something like that, and I can enjoy all of it. But there's something about sitting down and watching a movie. I just want it to be, I don't know, eye candy or comfort, whatever you want to call it.
No, that makes perfect sense.
I don't want to think too hard when I'm watching a movie.
It's
really.
escapism for some people.
Yeah.
I've never understood how someone can sit down and watch, 16 hours of 48 Hours, which is that show where a real person gets killed and they try to figure out the crime, and it's just, for me, why delve that? But again, that's
Some
I'm
people
looking
love
to
it.
escape. Yeah, that's their thing. People. They complain, well, that movie's not realistic, so I can't be into it. It's like, well, I mean, it requires you to have an imagination.
Yeah.
And I really, even Einstein said imagination is like the more important than intelligence.
There you go. Yeah.
So it's super relevant to make sure that you're right. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that the things that you're watching are getting you away from everything else in the world. You don't need to be focused on all the bad stuff.
Right.
And what you were saying, there are some things that have their own physics to them. Like, yes, I love Star Wars. I'm unsure of how I missed saying that on my bio, but I do. I love Star Wars.
It's just a given in this group.
But there are explosions in space, and that can't happen. Well,
they can happen, but not in the way that they're depicting them.
That's great.
And the way their ships fight, like their aircraft, like fighter jets with like working traveling in like an atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's not real. And then,
well, right, of course.
But
yeah.
This is the point I was going to make. This is what I was saying coming up is like, I'd prefer to be the guy who's watching the movie going, oh, that's fake, because I'm a nerd and I'm like, we all know Thor's stronger than that. That's fake. Like, I'd rather be that guy instead of being the like, oh, this is unrealistic. I can't watch
Instead
this
of
movie.
superheroes can't exist, it's wait a minute, they screwed up this superhero
like
right
his
here. I'm not
outfit
believing that one
color
bit.
should be flipped or something stupid like that. Like, I'd rather be that guy than the other guy. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna go on to say that I also love things that are accurate, like Firefly. When they had any of the camera work where it would be out in space and like they're docking or whatever, it's all you hear is the communication over their comms, and that's it.
It's silence.
It's just silence, and so I like that's refreshing. But I understand that things can have their own physics in their own universe.
I mean, Fox did just buy. Rather, Disney did just buy Fox. So
I think Disney's the only one buying anything right
Firefly's
now.
coming back. Here
so I just wanted to say to Disney, sorry I made fun of you for trying to sue us, and
Here it
please bring
comes.
back Firefly.
Take a
We
look
can.
at that.
I mean, the movie was great. Serenity was great.
Hashtag bring
Retcon it.
back
We can bring
Firefly.
Wash back. It's cool. The only thing that's not going to come back, I think, is Jewel State.
The guy who's Mordo now.
More.
Doctor Strange. Mordo. Wasn't he the bad guy in Firefly? Am I off?
Mordo. Oh, you mean Benedict Cumberbatch?
Benedict Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange.
Right. Yeah. Well.
No, he means the bad guy from Doctor Strange.
It wasn't even a bad guy. He was his friend for most of the movies.
Oh.
At the end, he goes,
Yeah.
You
No.
know, you keep using these spells and you act like we don't have rules.
Is that
I don't know if he's
Benedict
in. I don't know if he was. I just finished it the other day.
I heard he was the bad guy. Am I wrong?
I don't know.
Is that off?
Check.
Well, nevertheless, as we're
It's off.
Yep.
Okay.
as I'm wrapping up here
You
real
can try
quick,
turning it on.
there's not really much.
On the left hand side. Hold it down. Which one? The one that says power.
How many people does it take?
John's on it. He's better than I am with this sort of stuff.
On the side that's facing me, it's by Tim's thumb there, and you hold it to the side.
While these gentlemen are trying to figure it out.
Oh, that's how it's done.
Get out of my
It's
head.
back on. See, these are technical difficulties, things that will be edited out eventually. Hopefully, Brian will do it. If not, who gives a crap? We're just having fun here anyway. We're not professionals.
Yeah.
It's working now.
He's working now.
John's back. So, John, you rolled a 5.
Sounds about right.
What do you what got you into nerddom, so to speak?
Well, I guess if we're going way back, early when I was early reading, I used to get brought to the library a lot with me and my brothers. My mom would bring us there pretty much weekly. That was a big part of my childhood, going to the library. And I used to rent a lot of the I don't know if anyone knows the old visual kind of encyclopedias by DK Publishing they used to make.
I do actually remember those.
So I used to always get the good old medieval Europe kind of knights and castles kind of stuff, and pirates. I was really into pirates as a kid. Yeah, I suppose many children are. But going on a little bit later, somebody brought a VHS copy of the film Willow to my house. The 1988 classic, directed by Ron Howard, written by George Lucas.
That's right.
So that was my kind of real first introduction to fantasy, and that was kind of it there. I was hooked.
It's like your heroin.
Yeah. Poking around yard sales soon after I came across some of the original Shannara trilogy of books by Terry Brooks.
Not the Shannara Chronicles, the MTV venture.
Loosely based on the later books. I believe he may still be writing them. I don't know. I just read the original trilogy way back in
How
the
come no one ever
90s.
talks about that actor?
What actor?
The guy from Shannara Chronicles.
Which one? The half elf?
No, the guy with the eye patch.
Yeah. Oh, you talking about Manu Bennett?
Yeah, he played Slade in Arrow, right?
He played Slade and Arrow. He also was Crixus in Spartacus.
Yes.
Yeah.
He also did the
he should do
mocap
some-
for Azog the Defiler in the Hobbit trilogy, which should have been 2 movies.
Well,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a whole nother thing to talk about those films.
Everybody here is giggling because
sidetrack.
we all know that eventually that's going to be something we talk about. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, John. Please continue.
Oh, that's quite all right. So that was kind of my introduction to fantasy, those novels and Willow. But then my father, of course, brought home one day the original Star Wars trilogy. Of course, I grew up with the first edit, where CGI was added and some other things here and there.
Oh, okay.
I've seen the originals since then. However, I watched those old ones into the ground so much back then. That's kind of my version of Star Wars, even though I know you're all very purist on the originals. But I'm a little bit younger than you.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You can be wrong.
Yeah. So, being into Star Wars, that spun me off into reading some of the Young Jedi Knight novels that were published in the mid to late 90s. I had fun with those. never revisited those as an adult, so I don't know if they hold up at all. But
Well, they're not canon anymore, so.
Yeah, well, who cares what Disney's doing? Kind of
Entertainment is entertainment.
It is, right?
But yeah, my dad used to read to me and my brothers when we were little as well, which was kind of my first exposure to The Hobbit. My dad reading to me as a kid. So The Hobbit's always kind of been on my radar. Though it wasn't until much later that I started reading the books, actually after the films were released, when I was in my, early teens there.
Oh, yeah.
Later? I don't know when. What was that? 2001 was the first one, yeah.
I believe it was.
2002, I believe.
The Lord of the Rings series, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001.
Okay, yeah.
And then Two Towers was 2002.
And
And Return of the King was in 2003. They filmed them all at once, didn't they?
Yeah. It was quite the endeavor.
Must have been so much fun to be a part of that. Can you imagine being a part of that?
It would be terrible. I mean, you have to go to New Zealand and...
That's a bucket list place for me right there, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
New Zealand, Iceland, Japan.
Scotland.
Hey. Hey.
Mars.
Mars. Get your ass to Mars. One day, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Even if it's by like...
Yeah, what else? So in the 90s there, looking back, I was into a lot of the early CGI shows, like Reboot.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
I used to play that at a computer game, the Reboot computer
I
game.
was so happy you brought that up. Thank you.
They have a Netflix show. You've seen it, right?
I have not. It looks like hot garbage, though, so I'm not
It
touching
is.
really
It is
10
actually molten garbage, but it does reference the old school stuff. So it is a shout out somewhat when you're watching it. Like the bad guy is still gigabytes. So
What did he say? Alpha? Did he say alphanumeric? And he used to say big fleshy deal, I think was his other catchphrase.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm a little fuzzy. It's been a few years.
We should get our hands on the old school Reboot.
Yeah.
And then maybe give it a watch and see if it actually does hold up or if it's just terrible. Because I think the bad guy's name was Megabyte, right? That was
Yeah, I think it was Megabyte. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It still is on the new rendition.
All right, cool. Well, anything else that you'd like to add, or you think?
Star Wars Episode 1 came out, and I was only 10, so I still love that movie.
I mean, I was young when those came out and came in the theaters. I saw, my dad took me to see each of them in the theaters. I liked them at the time. And now as an adult looking back, there are parts of those movies that I do enjoy thoroughly. But as a whole...
I skipped school to go see that movie.
I think they're very good movies.
They're not. I mean, it wasn't great, but I really did enjoy them.
It would have been better if they stuck with it's a rumor, but if they stuck with the Jar Jar was like
Darth Jar Jar.
It would have been perfect because it makes so much sense.
I'm ultimately about it.
I think that if they chose a different voice for Jar Jar, maybe go the route of a Daffy Duck with because he has that duckbill kind of mouth instead of what he went with.
That was awesome.
I like the voice when he wasn't that, he was very serious. And it was like he was doing all of this just to make us think he was a complete...
instead of like, Misa, Misa, he's like, Yusa in deep doo-doo or something like that. Or
It just dropped the octave a bit.
That's fine. He
like
can
the leader of them.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. They still have people who are that race that speak normally. They don't all say things like he does. So speaking normally with that Misa whatever would have been cool.
Yeah, I agree. So... we do have some new stuff coming on, by the way. I just wanted to... Oh!
Good news, everyone!
It's time for Nerd News. That's right. We're doing a little segment here called Nerd News, and we're going to start off with the science segment. So, we got a little something happening going on in space. We all love space. Most of us here would travel in space if they got the chance.
Yeah.
One of them is... from livescience.com, a strange sleeping magnetar woke up after a decade of silence. So if you guys don't know what a magnetar is a giant neutron star, okay, that has a massive electromagnetic pull and power. What these do is every once in a while they'll go off and they emit something that, a Mr. David Benner, Bruce Benner, loves, and that is gamma ray bursts because, of course. So basically what they said is a particularly odd spinning star has woken up and it's spitting out bright flashes of radio waves at us again. Of course, this is the particular magnetar XTEJ1810-192. This is not to be confused with my second favorite, which is QRSWXY and Z12345. That is my favorite magnetar. Not because it's phonetically and alphanumeric. Anyway, so it's only one of 23 magnetars and just 4 radio magnetars ever discovered. And it's turned up in 2004, and then in late 2008, it went dormant, no longer emitting radio waves. And then back on December 8th, 2018, it woke up again. And it's a bit changed. Researchers who spotted the awakening reported their finding in the paper uploaded on March 6th as a preprint. So astronomers believed that such strong magnetars carry magnetic fields more than 1 million times more intense than a typical neutron star, and then more than a quadrillion times more powerful than Earth's own star. So just let that sink in. I mean,
it was Captain Marvel's fault. It's
all. Moving on in science news, we have from Yahoo News. They are reporting that Harvard University uncovers DNA. This DNA switch actually controls genes for whole body regeneration. Human beings have this as well. So it's actually, his name was Dr. Mansi Srivastava. He's an assistant professor of evolutionary biology at Harvard University. He actually said that, university, yep. It's called the early growth response, or EGR. He says same animals, can't regenerate. All those downstream genes won't turn on, so other switches just don't work. So basically what happens is they go in and they've been turning them on to see what works. It's pretty cool stuff. Eventually, maybe, who knows, maybe human beings, you lose a finger in wood shop, you get to grow it back.
You just piccolo it out.
See what happens when you screw
intense.
around.
Or
screw
if
around
it's
and somebody gets hurt.
Yeah,
and it grows back slowly with age, so you have a baby finger for a little
just
while.
like Deadpool, right?
I was just gonna say that.
It's like, look at my baby.
Like just Winnie Pooh in it.
Yeah, maybe some people will be happy they can lop something off and hope something grows back bigger. And a sort of, thank you very much. A sort of Simpsons did it, but not Simpsons. Actually, Bob's Burgers did it first. MovieWeb.com has found out that a high school puts on Alien the Play. So there was an actual episode of Bob's Burgers where Linda misses the kids' Mother's Day. Basically, it's like a bunch of plays that all the different kids go to school, and Tina, which is probably my favorite character on Bob's Burgers, goes on to describe how they did Alien the Play. But yes, it's North Bergen High School in New Jersey, of all places, is making headlines following the school's stage production of Alien, and it's getting national attention. Those in attendance took photos and videos of the event, which were shared widely on multimedia platforms and social networking. They even did a xenomorph costume. So apparently, it's done quite well. A lot of the kids put up their own money and their own time to make all the sets and stuff like that.
That chestburster scene, I want to know how they did that.
I don't know, but I guess there is a face hugger scene.
Fantastic.
Maybe we at some point in time we could when we get our Instagram back up and kick in full stream, we can get that up on there and show that.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So moving on. Also in entertainment news, reported by Vice, you can make $1,000 by binging all 20 MCU movies, but it will cost you your soul. That's the title line from Vice. It's basically a cable company wants to pay you to watch all the movies back to back. So it's only going to be one lucky person who gets to do this. I honestly don't know if I could do this, and I am peak lazy. I really am.
Well, what are the parameters?
You have to watch all the not the Netflix series, but all the movies starting in 2008. the Marvel MCU universe and watch
Incredible Hulk.
Incredible Hulk,
No,
Iron Man.
so do
I
they
get
do-
that part. Like, but like, is it like, is there a time limit? Like how much do you have to do it like per day? Like, can you not go to work? Like, those are the things that I would need to know.
So it's just basically what it says is whoever wins the contest will have to binge all 20 official Marvel Cinematic Universe movies in chronological order, starting with 2008's Iron Man and going all the way up to last year's Ant-Man and the Wasp. Cable TV will also throw in some Marvel-themed extras like a Captain America popcorn maker, an Iron Man Snuggie, and you may even get a $100 Grubhub gift card so you won't have to force to survive exclusively on superhero-branded popcorn the whole time. So I guess they want you to sit there and do things, but you don't have to do things like watch the Fox movies. So Deadpool, X-Men, Fantastic Four, the earlier Spider-Man films, Ghost Rider, thank God, are not going to be on there. I don't care what anybody says; those Ghost Rider movies are horrible. So yeah, it's just one sitting. So yeah, you'll be watching 40 hours straight of movies.
Do they do back pay for people who've already done it?
I mean, it's $1,000. It's 40. It's more than some people make in 1 week as far as their job, right?
Yeah. 40 hours nonstop. I'd do it.
So I have other news, which is I don't have information for because I'm not going to look it up. But PAX East happened the other day,
Yes, it did.
and it's
Yes, it
actually
did.
still going on right now. Unfortunately, I missed tickets because they went out on sale, and I didn't follow the Twitter page like a moron, so I didn't get a chance to go this year. I'm a little upset. I've been to the last, I think it's 5.
Nice.
And one of my favorite games is Borderlands 2.
Oh, that's why we know this.
Borderlands 3 dropped.
The
trailer.
Borderlands 2 setup last time was dope.
Yeah.
They legit had like the rock set up. Like it looked like you were really walking into like their little area was like set up to look like the Borderlands play world. It was dope.
So if you get the chance, check out the trailer online. Obviously, you can get it on YouTube. Borderlands themselves wants you to visit their website, borderlands.com, on April 3rd. I guess something is going to be dropping.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, but I would love to be a sponsor. And one of the things they're touting, at least at the end of that trailer that I saw, is there's going to be literally 1 billion guns. 1 billion guns.
You got to do the Doctor Strange. I mean,
Oh,
Doctor
1 billion guns.
Dun,
So,
dun, dun.
I mean, if you really think about it, that's insane. I mean, is it randomized? Did the guys sit around and program all those?
It's RNGs.
Yeah, it's definitely auto generated. But basically, it has to be, right, John?
Yeah, it would definitely be some kind of RNG system to.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna have to fix that. But anyway, another thing that I wanted to talk about. But before we get to that, we actually have something that we're doing this week as well, and that would be This Week in Nerd History. And This Week in Nerd History is brought to you by Peter. Peter, please inform us as to what went down in This Week in Nerd.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. I really appreciate it all. Today, March 31st, 2019. Well, this day in nerd history, 1889, the Eiffel Tower opens.
Wow.
In 1993, actor Brandon Lee was killed on set of The Crow when a prop gun accidentally contained a live round.
That's air quotes for everybody. Accidentally.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to that, but you can look it up if you like. So Brandon Lee was killed on this day in 1993. The Matrix opened 1999.
Awesome movie.
How are we feeling about that? 20 years of Matrix.
I feel old.
Yes. In 1985, the first WrestleMania took place in New York City at Madison Square Garden. If I'm not mistaken, Hulk Hogan took on Andre the Giant.
I think that was number 3.
Oh, that may have been the third one.
That's
I think
the
you're
third
right.
one,
I think
yeah.
you're right.
I think so.
This day in 1984, Kenny Loggins' Footloose hit number 1 on the charts. Who doesn't want to know that?
Kevin Bacon is still one of the greatest heroes of all time.
That's right.
How can you not be with the last name Bacon?
That's right. And birthdays, March 31st, we have Angus Young, lead guitarist for AC/DC, turns 63. Al Gore, former vice president of the United States, turns 70.
I invented the internet.
Yes, he absolutely did.
Man,
Ewan
Bill
McGregor, Obi-Wan himself, turns 47. And
Hello there.
Christopher Walken, everyone's favorite, turns 76 years
Hi.
old today. And this has been This Day in Nerd.
Thank you, Peter. Continuing on with Nerd, we actually have some good news about Star Wars. We've been talking a lot about it. It's going to be one of those things that we just can't avoid. Sitting in the room, and we've got stuff all over the place. You can't see it yet. Eventually you will when we have our video up. There has been a rumor. Obviously, you know about the new trilogies that are coming out, and one of them is by D.B. Weiss and Benioff, and that one is going to be a new trilogy, and everything that is being pointed to is a Star Wars Old Republic trilogy.
Thank you.
You want to talk about going 6 to midnight? I'm telling you, like, immediately when I hear that. But there is no word as if it's going to be 1,000 years or a couple hundred years, or if it's going to even touch the Skywalker franchise.
Wasn't it the directors of the Game of Thrones, right?
Yes, it is, and that's the segue.
That's
The Game of Thrones guys. And if anybody can do Game of Thrones meets Star Wars with the Old Republic, it's these guys.
Essentially,
yeah, right? Okay, continuing into our Game of Thrones news, HBO has put out, you guys may have seen this for part of their viral marketing campaign. They put out, I believe it was 7 Iron Thrones all around the world for people to find. The last 2 were just found recently. They're kind of cool. You can kind of go take your picture with it.
It's kind of like a golden ticket from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, it's pretty neat
Find your
stuff.
Iron Throne.
Except for multiple people can use it. That's just for one person.
Right. And continuing with Game of Thrones news, there's something that actually came out recently. It was actually back on March 25th. GameSpot.com, it was where I found this, was Game of Thrones star Emilia Clarke reveals she suffered and survived 2 brain aneurysms while on set for the first season of Game of Thrones. Now, if that doesn't cement the fact that maybe she should be sitting on the Iron Throne as the absolute badass that she is, I don't know what is. She really is, she's incredible. I
She
mean,
was
in more
pretty
ways
young
than
when
one.
that happened. You're talking season 1.
Yeah,
right?
it's basically what it said is that it all started in February 11th, 2011. 2 months before the series premiered, Clarke was working out with her trainer when she felt as though an elastic band were squeezing her brain. She continued saying, "I tried to ignore the pain and push it through, but I just couldn't. I told my trainer I had to take a break. Somehow, almost crawling, I made it back to the locker room. I reached the toilet, sank to my knees, and proceeded to be violently ill." We're not going to get super detailed in that. Meanwhile, the pain, shooting, stabbing, and constricting pain was getting worse. At some level, I knew what was happening. My brain was damaged. Eventually, someone came to her aid, and Clarke was transported to a hospital. It's there she learned she was suffering from a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Which
right.
she described as a life-threatening type of stroke caused by bleeding into the space surrounding the brain. According to the actress, roughly 1/3 of patients who suffer those don't survive. Soon afterwards, she underwent surgery for her first brain surgery. That's pretty incredible stuff, and it's scary too. I mean, I don't know. I got migraines, but I could never imagine having a brain aneurysm.
Nope. Just add that to her long list of titles.
Yes. Yes.
Survivor
the
of
healer of
aneurysms.
aneurysms.
The
Breaker
healer of
chains.
aneurysms. So with that segue, I think that we need to start talking about Game of Thrones. And here we are again. We're in the discussion. We're in the round table. We're gonna roll for discussion once again, folks. So we have the ones here coming up. So let's do this. We're gonna roll right now. Oh, I love that sound. Is there anything better than that sound? All right.
No, there's not.
We're actually going to start with Mr. Brian.
Well, that's kind of good because before we do that, I've got a little thing to talk about anyway. Before we talk about like our interest in Game of Thrones stuff, so I have basically the gossip column of our news segment.
Ooh!
And these are some fan theories that are out there. I got these off of All Time Tens as a YouTube channel. And I added some things that I had heard previously.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a faceless man theory that Arya's actually dead, and it was the waif that won.
Really?
Yes. I don't know. I understand that the waif got her in the gut a couple times. It didn't really seem like Arya was gonna make it through there. But I mean,
she's a Stark,
right? She's a Stark, and with the way her and Sansa worked together to take down Littlefinger, like that couldn't have been the wave.
No, that's a poor theory.
Like,
I'm not buying that.
I wasn't a fan of this one.
Also, she was in the tombs. Her first place to go when they told Sansa that
That's right.
supposedly her sister came. You know, she knew exactly where she was. Like the wave's not walking into the tombs and admire. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
that's not happening.
Not only that, but when Arya got into the woods of Winterfell, she was approached by a pack of wolves led by a giant dire wolf that if she was the waif, she would have been eaten immediately.
Yeah. That's a poor fan theory.
It's a poor fan theory.
Boo.
Try harder next time.
Boo! Boo!
Why do you boo me, old madam?
The Azor Ahai.
Ooh.
So, most people, we all know that Azor Ahai is said to return. He's the prince that was promised.
Yep.
He saved the world from darkness in the past, and he's been told he's going to come again. And
lucky him.
Lucky him. Yeah, ho ho hey hey. So I mean, a lot of people think that there's two possibilities here. You know, Jon and Dany. They both make sense. However,
that's right.
There's another one that I like. So, the Azor Ahai is born amidst salt and smoke, and he's going to forge the burning sword Lightbringer.
Okay.
So, there's a bunch of people out there that think that it could actually be the Hound that is Azor Ahai.
Really?
So the fire is
What's his name, son?
It's Sandor Clegane.
Sandor Clegane.
Baratheon's son. I forgot his name.
Oh, Renly
The
Baratheon?
blacksmith, the blacksmith.
Renly.
No, Gendry.
Oh yeah,
Gendry.
my bad. Yeah.
I'd go with that for forging Lightbringer as a little.
Well,
hint.
forging, yes, but there's the whole salt and smoke that he really doesn't describe Gendry at all. But so the Hound survived the fire that the mountain shoved his face into, and made him look as he does.
Hamburger meat.
And then there was also the Battle of Blackwater. So you've got smoke and you've got fire. And just I think that with his fear of fire, him wielding a sword that is ablaze, it just would be kind of cool. I don't necessarily think that it is going to be him, but I like the idea of it.
I love the Hound. He's actually one of my favorite characters, especially when it involves chicken. He's just, he's fantastic. But I can't get behind this theory. I just don't see it happening. I think he's integral into the rise of Azor Ahai, but I don't think that he is him. I think that he's the best thing we're going to get from this upcoming season is the well-touted Clegane Bowl, which I am looking forward to.
Yes, I am looking forward to the Clegane Bowl as well.
Yeah, they've been trying to push that for 2 seasons now.
Yes, they have. So this a simple, easy one. Sam is the narrator, so essentially this is The Hobbit. Like, Bilbo wrote The Hobbit, and it's the story. He's the narrator. So some people think that when Game of Thrones ends after this season, it's going to end with Sam closing a big book, and then that's it, which would tell you that Sam makes it all the way till the end, and also that people win, the White Walkers lose.
That would be cool if he was like an old school maester too, like
Exactly.
really old.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm just telling you guys what led up to this type thing. The same way we opened a little bit with Bran getting told stories by the old lady.
Yeah.
Yep.
It would be a great recircling of everything.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kings and peasants froze in their castles.
Yeah.
So Brian, I do have a quick question for you.
Absolutely.
What is your what's your favorite episode?
My favorite episode, I think it's Hard Home. I really enjoyed Hard Home.
I have multiple down there, and Hard Home is one of them. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a fantastic.
It's
episode.
dope.
It's dope.
Yep. Sorry, continue.
No, that's fine. So we've got the Mad Queen theory. A lot of people thought that it could be Dany because she's the daughter of the Mad King, and she literally burns her enemies with dragon fire.
Yeah, but she doesn't do it unjustly.
No, she doesn't. However, there's a much better argument for Cersei being the Mad Queen. She already blew up a large part of King's Landing with the same chemical that the Mad King was going to use to blow up the entire city.
Wildfire, yeah.
Wildfire. And it's said that when she went to Maggie the Frog when she was a child, and she got the prediction that she wasn't going to marry a prince, which I believe she was betrothed to Rhaegar. Was it Rhaegar?
Originally. Yeah.
But she was instead going to marry a king, which she did, Robert Baratheon. He was going to have 20 children. She was going to have 3. I believe that's turning off because it's not actually recording. So it's timing out. I think that's the issue there.
Oh, we'll have to fix that in settings.
Fine. I don't. Yeah, sure. If it does that. So part of that, and he would have 20 children. She would have 3. I disagree with a little bit of this, only because I don't think she had 3 children. I think she had 4.
Explain.
Gendry. So Gendry.
You think no? Gendry wasn't a tavern wench, right?
That's what they told us. However, Cersei when Cersei and Robert Baratheon were speaking very honestly with each other, probably the first honest conversation they had in probably their entire marriage. She was talking about their first child, and he was black of hair, and then that he died. And then when we meet Gendry and Ned Stark asks him about his mother, the only thing he knew was she was a barmaid or whatever, and she was blonde of hair. So I think that this could have been something that Varys did. I think Gendry was plucked, told that he was dead, and put in
that is that's actually
which would mean that Gendry, as much as Dany thinks she has claim of the throne, it actually would be Gendry because he is the natural born son of Cersei and Robert Baratheon, making him the heir to the throne.
Well, the real technical heir to the throne we all know is Jon Snow.
No, because Robert Baratheon took over the kingdom.
The usurper?
Yes. So it's his kingdom now. Therefore, it would be his child that would be the actual...
Technically.
Yeah, which is technically correct is the best kind of correct.
I would still say that Jon Snow is the heir to the throne.
But well, I agree, but I also don't want to see him on there.
No.
So this Bran the Builder, Bran has the ability as the three-eyed raven to go back in time and influence things. So it's thought that maybe he went back in time, seeing that what the White Walkers are going to do, and lived up to his namesake because he was named after Bran the Builder, and he built the wall. I disagree with this as well because I don't think there's any chance that humans could have built that wall in like the amount of time that it did. I think it had to have been the White Walkers. I don't think there's any way around that. But Bran is able to alter things when he goes back in time, so it's also theorized that he was the reason why the Mad King why he went mad in the first place. Bran tried to explain to him that he needs to burn the White Walkers, but it didn't work out so well, as we saw the hold the door situation, and the king went mad.
I've also heard that Bran is actually the Night King.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
I don't believe it, though.
You don't?
I think Bran's the key to winning. I feel like Bran and Arya, the 2 youngest of the Stark children, are going to be the ones who kind of bring everything full circle, because Bran got pushed out of the window, and Arya was like the black sheep of the family, along with Jon Snow. If you notice, it's all the people. I don't know if Sansa's going to make it. I mean, I hope she does just because she's a Stark. But if you look at it, it looks like all the scattered children, the ones that weren't really home based, are the ones that aren't dead.
That's true. It really is true.
Yeah. I mean, well, Reek is Reek, but he's essentially one of those
We're
kids
unsure
that
of who he is right now.
Yeah, he just keeps bailing.
He's one of the Stark children, I would say, that got the short end of the stick, along with Robb, obviously, Sansa.
Well, the thing about the Game of Thrones is what you realize is that there are 2 families that are innately magical, right? Yeah. That being obviously the Starks and the Targaryens. Yeah. And I think that only certain Starks have exhibited that specific type of magic. Just like how Dany clearly was immune to fire and heat, as opposed to, her brother who died by a molten golden crown.
Crown for a king.
Yeah. Yeah, he so I think that Jon and Arya are magical. I do. I think they're innately magical.
I mean, Jon was able to be brought back anyway. That's not going to happen just for anyone.
Well, he was only mostly dead.
He was all the way dead. He got stabbed in the heart.
He's actually half Targaryen, so his heart might not be in the same place as everyone else's.
That's true, right?
It's true.
Years and years of inbreeding lead to weird things.
It's on the right side of the chest, not on the left.
That's from Ninja Assassin.
Burned and not die. So,
speaking of someone who is actually Targaryen, there's the three-headed dragon, which the three dragon riders.
Don't tell me the Tyrion thing.
The Tyrion thing.
Oh, come on.
So a dragon it kills their mother when they're born. Tyrion killed his mother. He was able to communicate with the dragons who gave Daenerys attitude last time she had gone in there. He was able to go in there safely, take off the chains, and get out without getting his face eaten off.
But I think that's just him being smart.
It very well could be.
He's an intelligent person who would research the animals first instead of just going in blindly like some other moron or idiot that exists in that realm. So I think that when you really come down to it, it's just him being intelligent. I don't really agree with this. That's basically saying that it would be Dany and Jon and Tyrion.
Yes, that would have been the riders. However, one of the dragons is a white dragon.
It's
so
Viserion, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
So now that's the Night King is the rider of that. But there's also been, Bran was told that he'll never walk again, but he'll fly. So, that could have just been because he's going to be the three-eyed raven, but that's not real.
I think he's going to warg Viserion.
You do?
Yeah. I think that's going to change the tide. It's going to be at a pivotal moment, and then he's going to because most of the things that Bran does are usually out of his control. It's kind of like, oh, this is happening to me.
Yeah.
So I feel like his ability is going to take over. He's going to warg the Viserion at a pivotal part in the battle.
There's two more that I want to talk about. One is the Grayscale and White Walkers.
Okay.
That they may be from the same magic. So the Stone Men, the people suffering from Grayscale, they're essentially like zombies, similar to the White Walkers. They have similar looks, but the Grayscale, the Stone Men are alive and not dead. That would be the difference between them and the White Walkers. So it's possible that
yeah, keep going.
It's possible that the Night King could actually control both hordes of zombies and not just the White Walkers. The Stone Men are put in the ruins of Valyria, where Valyrian steel comes from, which that's one of the only things that can kill the White Walkers. Dragonglass is rumored to be a cure for Grayscale. And we don't know where that disease comes from, so we don't know a lot about it. So there's that. And then the last one I wanted to talk about.
I don't feel like Grayscale are zombie people though. They're just
it's like rabies.
It destroys their brains. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because rabies does the same thing. It makes you go mad.
What's her name's daughter had it, right?
Yeah, but Shireen, and then she got saved by magic.
Yeah, well,
and then
I thought she got saved by what's his name?
No. They basically Stannis Baratheon sent out ships in all different directions to bring the most powerful healers that he could find in the entire realm, so that he could cure them. And that's the story that he told her. I forget what episode it was, but that's what he tells her the story. So eventually, you see Sam curing Jorah Mormont. Yeah. And he did. He used a little scalpel made of dragon glass, and he chopped off all the Grayscale slowly and painfully, which is just nasty.
It was I think it was like the grossest scene in Game of Thrones, which is saying something.
That is saying huge.
I think it was. Okay. And lastly, the White Walkers are not the bad guys.
Then who is?
They're dead. They're bad.
So there was a treaty that was made. The wall was put up. There was a treaty. The White Walkers were going to stay at theirs where they are, but they were supposed to get sacrifices from men because they can't procreate, and they would leave them alone. However, people weren't supposed to cross the wall.
Yeah.
People crossed the wall, like the wildlings.
Yep.
And no one short of, I can't remember his
Craster.
name, would give sacrifices. And then he died.
I heard that Craster could have been actually a Targaryen bastard. That's a theory that I heard recently.
It's very, very possible.
He is, if you look at the color of his hair and the eyes and everything like that, and there's a lot of things going around as far as who can actually become not just a white, but a White Walker, right? You know that scene where the baby gets touched and the eyes change color.
Yeah.
And the theory is that there are only 2 families that can make White Walkers, and can you guess which ones they are?
Stark and Targaryen.
Yep, and that's the idea.
Targaryen?
Targaryen and Stark are the only people, supposedly. This is a theory. Again, this is a theory that these are the only ones that can become.
Maybe Lannister.
Oh no, Lannisters just have money and.
But they don't. They're in massive debt.
They do.
They ran out of gold.
That's right. That's why they attacked House Tyrell.
Yep. So basically, it's like a Noah's Ark scenario.
Yeah.
Where the world needs to be cleansed, and this is the cleansing.
So from here, those are all great theories. I mean, we'll see what happens when the new season comes out, but we're going to do a quick little bounce around, talk about our favorite seasons, our favorite episodes, who our favorite characters are, your list of favorites. We'll get everything that we possibly can done. And then, we'll discuss on each of them and maybe argue a little bit and name call or just agree. So why don't we start with Peter? You were actually next. Who's your favorite characters?
I mean, it depends on. It's difficult with Game of Thrones. I always found it to be one of these things where there's characters that are good characters and you like them, and there's characters that are bad characters that you like them, and there's obviously some characters that do a little bit of crossing over. They become bad after being good, or
I think
vice
I know
versa.
who you're talking about, but yeah.
Well, there's several characters.
Yep.
I think. But anyway, I would say, honestly, some of my favorites that I just enjoy watching on screen, I've always enjoyed Jon Snow. There's no doubt about that.
Jon Snow.
Tyrion's always a blast. And these are kind of obvious ones. Everybody, Daenerys, I obviously enjoy.
Yep.
Ned was great. Ned was only there for one season, but I really liked Ned.
Yeah.
I mean, he made a huge impression on me. And Robert Baratheon as well. Also, same season. Those guys were they're such good buddies, and they're going back and forth. And when he's yelling at Ned when they're at King's Landing, and he's just like, "Careful, Ned, careful,"
You got fat.
Yeah, exactly.
Bow, you shits.
Get the breastplate stretcher.
Yep.
But I would say one of my favorite characters just to watch on screen was Tywin.
Knew it. I knew it. Yeah,
Charles
yeah.
Dance. There's something about that guy. He played that character about as perfect as you possibly could. I think Tywin and his face and that voice, it all just makes perfect sense.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah.
So Tywin, even though he's a bad guy, he is a bad guy. He had those moments of "You're my son."
Yeah, but he's a lawful evil.
Yeah,
yes,
he is.
He has a code that he lives by, and he does what he thinks is right.
Right.
I don't think the Red Wedding was the right thing to do. I think it's piss poor way to kill your enemies. Well, I mean, an honorable way to kill your enemies, but yeah.
Right.
I lost my train of thought.
Oh, it's okay.
I would also throw in there. So there's.
Sorry, I just remembered. He's good, a lawful evil.
Yeah.
And you had Stannis that was lawful good. And one of the things that I really wished that we could have seen was those two military minds.
Yeah.
Meeting.
Yeah.
On the battlefield.
It's funny. There were Stannis was lawful good to a point of
and then he went crazy.
Not caring like what people thought of him.
Well, it was just like his personal self-righteousness.
The Manus, yeah.
Yeah. And I actually like Stannis as his individual character, until he just starts going insane and he's like, well, I'll sacrifice Shireen, and it's just madness, but it's that sheer grit that he has, I do enjoy.
Yep.
And then just to throw it in there, I loved Ygritte.
Yeah.
I loved Ygritte so much.
I think you just like redheads.
Well, that's part of it, but like her character, like there's plenty of women that are very attractive in the show,
yeah.
But hers wasn't even like, it's not like she was meant to be some sort of a glamorous princess or anything.
Right.
She was a wildling, but I loved her attitude. I love it when
Yeah, she was.
when she starts going out with Jon Snow after their night in the cave. By the way, name of the episode: Kissed by Fire.
Yeah, but in that episode, it was the fire that got kissed.
You're
Why do you do that with your
Come
mouth?
on.
So,
Sorry, it's funny. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
but she actually, he has a conversation with her when they're. So after that, they're kind of like boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and they're on the trail with the rest of the wildlings, and she's like, "Are you gonna take me down to the south of the wall and dress me in fine silks and all these things?"
Yep,
and he's
yep.
like, "Yeah, I'll put you in a dress and then I'll rip it off you." And then her response is perfect. It's, "If you rip my dress, I'll punch you in the face." Like,
If you rip my pretty silk dress, I'll punch you in the face.
I'll blacken your eye,
Yeah, I'll
Jon
blacken
Snow.
your eye.
That's
what she
so
said.
funny.
That's right, yeah.
It was, so I've always enjoyed Ygritte. Like that was one of those ones where when she died, that was one of those ones like a little piece of me in my Game of Thrones world.
Yeah, man, I
died.
get
Yeah.
you. I get you.
So
Fuck you, Wally.
there's plenty of great characters, but those are the ones that I would say I've keened in on the
Yep.
most over all these years.
X, what about you, brother?
Favorite character?
Yeah, man.
If I had to pick one person to say my favorite character, I guess I didn't think of it as this much of a acting standpoint.
Okay.
Definitely Arya.
Yeah, man.
Arya for me was like my favorite character because of her actions and her mindset, and she seems the only one that finds everything that's been going on as absurd as like
She gets
the
it.
regular person.
Yeah.
Everybody else is kind of like, oh, this is the Game of Thrones. These things happen. She's the only one that's like, how is this okay for this person to be this much of a piece of shit and they're walking around? Like, it's not all right.
Questions it. She actually
Yeah,
questions
yeah.
it.
So, and I like, her progression of her story where she like takes her will into her own hands. Like, you know what I mean? She could have had the Hound going around killing for her, or try to line them up together where they're doing things together. But she was all about, I want to learn. I want to be able to completely capable myself because these people need to die by my hands. Like,
Right.
they need to feel the wrath of a Stark, so to speak. So
Yeah, it's sick. She's been offering up names to the Red God before
she even
knew.
there was
Yeah. Well,
that-
rather the many-faced God. Yeah, yeah.
I feel like her story arc is the one has been unbroken. Like everybody else we've ever watched in this show has had a path that started a certain way. I mean, they called Bran the climber at the beginning of the thing because this dude would like climb everything, and then it's like, yeah, that lasted all of 30 minutes. Like,
The only thing that Arya changed was she removed a name. She removed the Hound from her list.
That's probably the most pivotal thing that's changed with her.
And I really think that was only because of how their travels and stuff like
Not
that.
to mention, she thought he was essentially going to die there.
She did.
I don't think she thought somebody was going to.
I think she removed him though before that, but she
True.
she didn't care for him enough to save him,
Right.
or to give him
the
mercy.
final blow. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But yeah, so definitely Arya, man.
Yeah, I would actually have to go with. I mean, I agree with everybody loves Jon Snow. I love Arya. Tyrion. I have two of my favorite characters, and the first one I'm going to bring up is Davos. I love this.
How
this,
did I forget about Davos?
Honestly, he speaks the truth.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't bullshit. He doesn't. He's blunt. He's right to it. I mean, I love it. The scene where Jon and Dany finally meet, and it's Dany's got her long list of names, and then Davos is like,
As you heard in the intro.
yeah, this is Jon Snow.
Yeah.
King of the North.
That's actually one of my favorite moments because of how hilarious it is.
He's a man who has a tragic past. And we talk about the acting. You talk about Tywin. There's a scene where Davos is talking about Shireen because he spent so much time with her. I'm not saying I'm a tough guy that doesn't cry, okay? But it takes a little bit for a movie or whatever it is to get to me. That man's acting almost had me blubbering when he's like, "You murdered her." I'm like, oh my God, come on! Like, what are you doing? It's just
heartstrings.
Was that at Winterfell when he confronts Melisandre? And I think
Yes.
it's at
Yeah.
Winterfell or is it at Castle Black? One of the two?
I think it's at Winterfell. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in between Castle Black and at Winterfell when that
Eventually,
took
it's
place.
cold and snowy, and I can't
Yeah.
remember because there's been so many as many seasons there haven't. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he is just, he's funny. He cares. He
Was that at
saves.
Dragonstone?
It might have been.
I think it was at Dragonstone when they were all there.
Regardless, he saves Gendry's life. He stays true to Stannis, and then eventually he realizes what's going on. It's just he's such a great character. My second is here I stand. I love the Mormonts. You know, I love Jorah. There's something about a lovesick guy who's just, you know,
Yes, Khaleesi.
he's been essentially put in his place. You know, he's never going to be a side piece. He's never going to get any of it, but he loves her anyway, and he does whatever he possibly can. You know, he starts off spying on Dany, and eventually, you know, he catches feels hardcore for her, and then next thing you know, it's just such a cool character to me.
You know what's also tough is that the guy who's gonna end up boning her has his father's sword.
I already did.
Yeah.
Which is his aunt and nephew, which isn't as icky as twincest.
He did kind of try to give it back, though.
He did.
And he said no
He was
because
like, nah,
my
pops
father
gave
gave
it
this to
to
you.
Yeah.
I was sent away. Like I don't have birthright to this anymore.
I love the Mormonts. I think it's such a cool group or a house. I mean, Lyanna obviously is just a badass. This little kid.
The little girl.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's crazy.
Braver than full-grown men.
Yeah, you ignored the coal. It's just like all those things.
I love how she said call too.
Coal.
Did they pledge their allegiance to House Stark? Because
Yes,
they're
they-
a minor house.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They did. Please.
That was a really
But here's
cool
the thing:
scene, too.
one soldier from Bear Island is essentially worth 10 men.
Pretty much. That's what they were saying. Actually.
Yeah,
I think she said that right.
Yeah,
during
they,
the
and they
thing.
really are. Obviously, we're
They're
not talking
a lot
about the
taller
books.
and bigger than everyone.
Taller,
Yeah,
bigger,
yeah.
stronger. They're just tougher guys.
Because they could only, when the Battle of the Bastards took place,
Yeah.
they requested men, and she could only provide like 50.
I think it was like 30.
30. Yeah.
And that's when they were like, yeah, well, it's worth 10 men. You know?
Yeah, essentially, yeah, they're about 300. So after that, we can bounce back around. Unfortunately, John's microphone has died. It's the battery is gone.
Just
So
gotta, anytime he wants to talk, you just turn it on.
it turns off right away.
Immediately?
Yeah, immediately.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
dead. So I guess we can hop to our favorite seasons. I'm gonna say right now.
Oh, I guess I don't have any favorite
Oh,
characters or anything. No, it's fine. Just no.
I'm gonna guess is Tyrion on that list?
Tyrion's on everyone's list.
He has to be.
I mean, I had Varys on my list. I really like Varys. You know, he's such an
choice.
integral part of the story, and I like that he's not his allegiance lies with the people, with the realm, and he just wants the good things to happen for the realm.
I think I'm with X on this.
Really, you guys don't like Varys at all?
It's not that I don't like him.
Right.
He's a politician. All the speaker for the realm and all that. It's like you're about your own.
I don't know, man.
I think he's just trying to save his own ass.
Yeah,
every
he's trying to
possible way.
make sure that whoever wins the throne doesn't send him packing for whatever he's done.
Yeah, I
in the
mean there
past.
is self-preservation involved, but
100%
he had his bits
self-preservation.
taken off and thrown into a fire, and then he heard something speak to him.
Well, he got raped when he was young, so
Well, I mean,
I wouldn't take it as a
think it
big
was
deal
worse
to get
than
your
that.
bits
I'm not
cut
trying
off.
to laugh at that.
Look, it's his story. I'm not being.
I know.
Terrible. That's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, but I just think that he's essentially like the CIA of Game of Thrones, and I think he's a cool character personally. He saves Tyrion's life.
Too much espionage for me.
Okay.
It's not that I don't. I like the times when he does things that are good, but at the same time, it's like, bro, they probably wouldn't have been in this situation had you not done what you did last time. So.
Don't trust a spy.
I don't trust him. That's the thing with him.
Yeah,
I can't
I
trust
have
him.
nothing against him, but I don't think he cares about the realm and shit. He's just like, just don't get bodied by the time this all ends.
The Hound and both the Hound and Jamie are characters that went up and down for me. But both of them I currently like. I mean, it is a little hard for me to get past Jamie, and after Joffrey died, and
Giving you that look.
I mean, incest is
Twincest.
one thing. Twincest is one thing, but like right on your dead incest baby's corpse just is a little much. But I mean,
It's gross, man.
it's gross.
There was
Corpse adjacent.
But I really loved Drogon.
CA Drogon.
Drogon's
Yes.
your character.
The
dragon.
The dragon. Because
I was about to
he's,
say.
he's a badass.
All right.
He does what he wants, but when he's needed, he shows up.
And he dodges spears.
I do what I want.
He
Should've-
also doesn't dodge spears, too. He doesn't
Should have
doesn't
taught
care.
that move to his brother.
Ooh.
Zigzag.
That little tilt, just tilt.
Just
a little.
a little bit of
slight
movement.
tilt.
Just a little bit of movement.
That thing gutted him though. Let's talk about that. Jesus. Sorry.
No, that's cool.
It was just like Fletch. It was like a scalpel cut.
Dude, it was a guided missile.
No, the way it
He's
tore
like the
through him,
javelin
man.
champion north of the wall, like
Dude, his blood
5,000
just
years running.
oozed
So.
out like a freaking, like you popped a bottle of a gallon and it just was like.
It's brutal stuff. It really is.
Yeah, it was.
Favorite season. I'm going to start off because I figure people are going to take it before I get a chance to. My favorite is season 4. I mean, it's everybody's, right? You get King Joffrey is murdered at the Purple Wedding. Sansa escapes the King's Landing with Littlefinger to return to the Vale. Tyrion escapes to seek his vengeance. There's the wildling attack at Castle Black, which is also one of my favorite episodes, leading to the death of Ygritte. Sorry, Pete.
Yeah, it's okay.
And, you know, Pig and Grin. Also, there is Ramsay Bolton tortures Theon Greyjoy, forcing him to assume the identity of Reek, which is hilarious and also tragic. And Daenerys learns the truth about Jorah Mormont and exiles him to from Meereen. Fantastic season.
You missed one moment.
Oh, what did I miss?
The Mountain and the Viper.
That's in 4.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Season 4, episode 7.
I did miss a moment. That's right.
Yeah.
Which is a great episode. It's a little too Inigo Montoya at points in time for me. Clearly the cutaway, the guy who was playing, the Red Viper himself was obviously Asian. They maybe could have been a little bit more camera work. I mean, I'm being a little critical of directing.
I didn't even notice that.
I mean,
it's more the power of the moment,
Yeah,
the emotion.
Maybe that's what
he
it
popped
is.
his head like a freaking cantaloupe.
Oh, that was such a great scene.
And then the scream from his wife.
Ilaria, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't stand her.
Yeah, screw her.
The whole Dorne plot just was terrible. The Sand Snakes.
Um.
Ugh.
Though I did like the scene where Bron's in jail and the girls are across.
Everyone loves that.
That was great.
Yeah,
but
that
I
was
mean,
great.
other than that, it wasn't worth the rest of it.
No. And
There's plenty of other boobs in Game of Thrones.
And
I
you-
just liked how the daughter died. I mean, I know that's not something else.
Ilaria?
Like,
No. What's her name? The little girl.
whatever
Liana?
their name's kid.
What's her name?
There's twin cest children. They all should have went. Let's talk about how
Jamie's
the best
the daughter
jumping
of
out the
Jamie.
window.
Oh yeah. Oh man,
letting
Tommen.
everything
Isn't
go.
it
That was
funny
great.
that Tommen? So Bran gets pushed out the window.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Full circle.
Tommen's girl,
Gets
Marjorie
fired
gets, and he's just
by
like,
Mom
I'm jumping
Dukes.
out the window
Yes.
now. Real quick aside, I think personally, Marjorie Tyrell, aka Natalie Dormer, would be a perfect Catwoman.
I could see that.
Catwoman.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
can
agree.
see her as a Jean Grey in the new X-Men.
Okay. All right.
She can play whatever.
She can be whatever she wants.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's
pretty
all
much.
good. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that's my favorite season. Let's kick it back. Go back around. Pete, what do you think? What's your favorite season?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of season 4 as well.
Okay.
I think that's when it really starts to have a lot of big moments. One of my favorite episodes, I'll just tie this in real quick. I think it's season 2 is where the Blackwater, season 2, episode
Awesome.
9.
Yeah.
That's a really great episode, but that's kind of like what I take out of season 2. 3, there's a lot of good stuff, but Watchers on the Wall in season 4 was is the moment. That entire episode is dedicated to one area, and they divide that to top of the wall, bottom of the wall, and just outside the castle. So many different moments.
Is
so
that the
much
one with the
cool
different camera
technology.
work where they're following
Yes.
That
guys
was
going through?
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yes, that one
Whoever
shot.
directed that did a fantastic job.
I can actually find that for you right here. That was Neil Marshall.
Well, Neil Marshall did a great job because that's something that is missing. We talk. My good friend John Arbitrary Man showed me a video about cinematography, and ever since then, most Marvel movies, when they're just sitting around, kind of drive me crazy now because everything just pans left to right, and when you realize that, and then you watch this scene, you're like, holy crap! It's like all done with like really like 3 or 4 takes, or 3 or 4 camera shots.
That entire they started off because you see somebody open up a door and then they start walking, and that begins the walk with the camera, and then it follows around that entire courtyard essentially of Castle Black, and you can see every major character. It's like, oh, okay, there's Tormund smashing his way through 10 dudes, and then there's Sir Alistair over there fighting a few guys, and
doing his best.
And they were all, I mean, to get that many people acting in sync, that could have been a few dozen people, and then to do it perfectly. I mean, how many times do you have to do that to get it right? But
makes you wonder.
It
It's
looks
like the
so
Say
damn
Something
impressive.
music video.
Yeah, right. Just JTT.
JTT.
So I would probably say season 4 would be my favorite. But once they started getting later than that, a lot of the battle scenes started popping up in a lot of seasons, and I'm a huge fan of battles. So
yep,
I mean, action packed.
Next, what you got? What's your favorite season?
Speaking of action, for me, it would have to be season 6. I know it's like the most recent one, but like Frey Pie for me was like, yes.
that was
season
an awesome
7, right?
recap.
Yeah, was I off by that? I'm sorry. The Red Wedding was so hard.
Oh.
So hard to take. No matter
Yeah.
who you were, how much of a fan you were, it was like, damn, Robb Stark just lost without pulling a single sword on anyone. It was just.
Yeah, I remember watching that scene, and the guy, one of the Freys, leans over and then stabs his wife in the belly like 3 times.
Dude.
And I'm like, oh shit!
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, what is happening?
Did not see this coming for
Not
sure.
at all.
You
Yeah, it
know,
turns
so
into a
it was
friggin'
such a
bloodbath.
huge moment.
Which, because
that-
I mean, it was very subtly they had Lannister's music playing in the background,
Yeah,
which
what
I
was
didn't
it?
notice
The,
at first.
Reigns
The
of
Reigns
Casimir.
which is the title of this episode.
So
Yeah, I know.
I feel like her serving up his sons to him in a pie.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Where
It's
are my
sweet.
ungrateful children?
It's sweet.
They're here.
It's sweet.
They're here, my
music.
lord.
Also, the what was the battle of the bastards?
Battle of the
Battle of the
Bastards.
Bastards.
Yeah, Battle of the Bastards was the Ramsay and John.
Also
Oh,
in
so
season
good.
6, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second to last episode.
What's her name coming in and saving the day? Sansa with the last second
With
save.
Peter Baelish and the Knights of the Vale.
Yes. Baelish, Peter Baelish.
Lord of the Val.
Yeah, with that guy. He's gonna get murdered by Arya, which is gonna be awesome in season 7.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
be so
Oh yeah. He did. He got murdered. He's dead.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that already happened.
Yep, he
I'm
did.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
It was very last.
satisfying.
Yeah, it was very ending type.
I think
thing.
Arya's taking his face
I
That
would
would be
not be
perfect.
surprised
because if you
she'd
saw
still
how
be the
she
master
killed him,
of the veil.
She just slit his
she
throat.
slit his throat. That's the beginning. She's getting a little short Baelish. Oh, yeah, she
A
makes
little finger.
the little finger. But I think she will. I think she'll take his face and maybe
He
she'll
dropped down to his knee.
I think your height changes with the ability.
maybe who
Because
knows.
she's been people that's older than
Oh,
her
that's what
before.
you mean.
She's
It's
never
true.
missed a beat.
Yeah.
Or you didn't even know until after. Like, oh,
It's like,
yeah,
oh shit, she took her
alright.
face off again.
Yeah.
Oh hell.
So yeah, I think
6.
that's got to be for me. Just because obviously I told everyone Arya's my favorite. So seeing her fully come to her own, honing her abilities and using them was really good. It was really great.
Absolutely.
And the wolf scene, I mean, epic. That's gonna come to play. I don't care what anyone says. People may say, "Oh, that was just them nodding." Like, no. During this giant battle, there'll be a part where the forest just erupts with wolves, and they all start tearing into White Walkers, and it'll be like they're all led by Nymeria being ridden by Arya.
And then all those fan complaints will finally be resolved. Where are the wolves? They're not in the CGI budget, but where are the wolves?
Yeah, I think
Half
I
of them
saw
are
a pretty
dead.
funny meme of like,
Wolves or dragons? Take your pick.
yeah, it was like dragons, and then it was somebody with a 2x4. I think it was from not Arrested Development, Always Sunny. Danny DeVito with a 2x4 just pushing off the wolves like off the edge of the boat with like a 2x4.
I posted that on our Instagram account.
Yeah. It was like dragons, wolves, wolves budget. It's like, yeah, no, we'll go with dragons. But yeah, so season 6.
Brian, what about you?
My favorite is Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean, maybe because you've been binge watching the whole damn thing for the past
You've
like
lost
2
track
weeks.
of
That,
what
and I think
seasons are
whether a season is overall excellent and great or overall not quite as good. There are essential plot points and essential things that happen in all the seasons.
Right.
So I like the show. I mean, really, my answer was 4, but that's already been used several times.
Sorry. That's why I wanted to get it out of there first. I knew it. I was like, as soon as I said 4, everyone was like, "Oh, you bastard!" It's just like it's possibly the greatest season. We'll see what happens with this next one. I think a lot of people too, they crap on the the time frame. Oh, he ran, and it's just like it's guys, there are freaking dragons, warlocks, white walking zombies. Like, is it really that hard to dispel disbelief that the time jumps happen? I mean, come on.
Well, not only that, but I mean, they're explaining things as they happen.
Oh, that's an excuse for pacing. I understand what you're saying, but I don't. I still give it a pass.
I mean, things
just
happen
don't
at
care.
the same time, so we're not going to really be shown everything in perfect chronological order. So you see we have one scene where it's happening, and then the next scene could be happening at the exact same time, or like whatever.
Yeah, well, we live in a world now where there's a lot of people who get pissy about a lot of things for no good reason, and
no.
Why are the wolves not in the battle?
And I just think that like this is one of those things. Hey, you're watching a show that has phenomenal content, and it also has this crazy budget, and it's like better than most movies that come out half the time with the CG. Just sit back, shut the hell up, and enjoy it. You know?
But I'm also glad we live in a time where something so nerdy, like something so dragons and knights and swords, like it has a complaint level where like people are upset that certain things aren't happening. You know what I mean? Like, whereas before, if something was terrible and it wasn't good, people were like, oh, well, it figures. This is just bad. But no, people are like, you need to fix this. We want this. Like, it's not as bad as the complaints used to be, where it's like, oh, this is garbage. Turn this off.
Hollywood
like,
doesn't know whether or not they want to
this.
operate as some sort of like dictatorial regime or a pure democracy, because it's always either we're going to make this movie and we don't care what the fan base thinks, or we're going to rely on the fan base to tell us everything, and then we'll do what they do.
Or they do the opposite of that with like the Star Wars franchise most recently. Call the fans who complain man babies and whining and say it's for children.
Yeah.
And instead, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to ignore this. This is another topic that we have to have another day.
But now they're listening to fans.
Well,
and they're
that's
doing
because
Knights of the Old Republic.
It's because
trilogy.
Disney knows when they make a misstep. In the late 80s, early 90s, they did things like The Black Cauldron and a couple other movies which were terrible. And then what happened was the Disney Renaissance of the 90s. Little Mermaid, Lion King, yeah. And I mean, so they know when they made a misstep. They said, oh crap, we really upset the base fan base here, the real fans, the people who have been there, you know, from the inception, or the ones that grew up on it who understand the original trilogy, you know, 4, 5, and 6. And they said, hey, let's go back to that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, what I think is the Game of Thrones, though. I mean, I just got a note here is you know, some people say is better than most in settling for lack of production or story, is what my buddy John just said when it comes to Game of Thrones. I get it. I mean, I do, but I still think that the time jumps. Brian brings up a good point. It's not all in one order. It's you're seeing multiple stories develop at the same time, and they're scattered throughout. It's not as bad as, you know, other things.
And it's very much like that in the books, simply because like we're actually a little whiny, if you want to think about it, because we get to watch these scenes play out.
Right.
Whereas if you're reading, there's times when like I've read it or some of them, and there's times where you're like, dude, when am I going to get like an Arya chapter? Because I've been reading everyone else's nonsense for like 2 books. Like, I just want them to go back to that person they left me off in like months ago. And then clearly they're in some different scenario, and you have to like kind of just imagine what's happened between that time.
Right.
But the way this show has done it, it kind of just keeps picking up right where you left that person. So you don't really have that gap, but they still continue the story. So I think like we should just be happy that we're not getting it in book form where it's like, what is this person doing? Oh, this is what they're doing. But 8 months of stuff has happened otherwhere, you know, like elsewhere or whatever.
So what I think we got to do next is we're going to do a double dose. We're going to say what your favorite episodes were and what your most shocking moments. I'm going to start off. So most shocking moment for me, I know. Yeah. It's everybody's, right?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Ned losing his head.
Oh.
I mean, there's 2 of them. For me, it's Ned losing his head because I was like, oh, Sean Bean. Yeah, right. Like, he's going to die in this. He's the main character. He's going to find his way out.
That's funny.
Sean Bean dies and everything, right? He was. I could not believe it. When he lost his head, I was like, you son of a bitch, Joffrey. I hated you before.
Yeah.
Now I really friggin' hate you.
They cranked it to 10.
Giant piece of 11. Giant piece of garbage. The second one that I have, Brian actually brought up, which is Shireen. Shireen being burned to death.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Stannis.
I've only watched it once.
Stannis, you jerk. You didn't have to do that. He would have stood a better chance. You know, I understand that they used the king's blood and supposedly that helped stop the snow when things lightened up and it wasn't as whatever. Dig in. You're from the north. You should be able to handle it, and you should be able to get through. Don't kill your daughter. Okay, so episodes I have. I'm not going to get into big things. I'm like Pete. I really am. I am a battle action nut. Hard home. unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
You get to see. That whole scene is fantastic with the Night King raising everybody that just fell. That gave me goosebumps.
I mean, John just like blocking that
Yes.
person, and it surprised him
Yes.
and the White Walker
Yep.
at the same time. He just had a faster reaction to swing the sword around and get him, and then he turned to ice cubes,
It was
which
so
was
cool.
really kind of cool way for him to die.
Second one, Castle Black, Battle of Castle Black. Again, we just talked about it. And the other one, of course, is Battle of the Bastards. The scene where he's getting piled on top of. You want to talk about inducing anxiety.
Oof.
Oh, it was and he comes up and it's like, and he's breathing, he's getting this air full of lungs, and can you just imagine how many people just died from just being suffocated from that? So it's brutal stuff. But anyway, those are mine.
It's definitely crazy when he gets the air full of lungs.
Yeah. Oh, did I flip it around?
When I get my air full of lungs, it's
lungs full of air.
It's so
Sorry,
hard to breathe.
I have a slight dyslexia.
Lexdixia.
Yeah, Lexdixia. Pete, what about you? What are your favorite episodes and most shocking moments?
My favorite episodes, I go very similar with you. Like we were going back and forth. The battle heavy episodes are always the best. Mountain and the Vipers, one of my favorites, just because it's just ends so shockingly, which is one of the big shocking moments. Prince Oberyn getting his head popped like a zit. That was a big one. But honestly, I had to think about this a little bit. But one of the biggest shocking moments is one of the first shocking moments. Bran climbs up a ladder.
Yeah.
He looks in the window and he sees brother and sister, having sex in this tower.
Doing it.
And then he gets shoved out the window, and that's the end of episode 1.
Yeah,
that's number 2 on my list. It was Ned's beheading and then Bran.
Funny quick aside, Pete and I used to be roommates, and I traveled on the road for a job. I came home and I was like, hey, I watched this episode. You need to watch this with me. You're going to enjoy it. He sat down. I had just finished the episode, literally, and he comes in. I watch it again. So I had just watched the first episode twice, and then he's like, holy crap. And then
we gotta watch the second one.
We watched the second episode. Then my wife comes home, and then we're like, Cassie, you have to watch this. Sit down, watch. I watched the first episode 3 times, and then we both watched. So we watched it twice. We watched the second episode twice. It was fantastic. I'm sorry.
We caught back up to the It was in between seasons 1 and 2 when we started watching it, so we watched all of season 1, and then we were like ready to go in season 2.
Oh, it was so good. Oh, sorry.
And then I spent a week sleeping on you guys' couch.
That's right.
I hadn't seen an episode really until you guys introduced me, and then I spent that entire week because I didn't go to work. I had the week off, and I just watched Game of Thrones all day long and caught up to the season 4
I think so.
premiere.
Yeah,
I believe
all
it was.
day, every day.
All day, every day. Chicken nuggets.
All right, sorry, Pico. Continue.
No. No, it was Brian was going there.
Oh, that's good. That's it.
Oh no, I mean that was probably the most shocking of moments. Would be like Red Wedding.
Oh
yeah, that one actually kind of like broke my heart in a lot of ways. Purple Wedding was shocking, but you knew it was going to happen eventually.
I wish his death was worse.
Yeah, I kind of wanted it to be more torturous in a lot of ways.
For sure.
Right, pulled apart.
I do like that it was in front of everyone though.
Yes,
that part was cool.
Yeah,
like everybody was there, and it's like, oh shit.
You know what? There is one person that I did forget as far as a favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the homegirl.
Olenna. Yeah, I mean she's
OG.
Mm-hmm. What a bad bitch, huh?
Oh, yeah, OG.
She reminded me of my grandmother.
She was that person that plays chess like super wild boy. You know that person that plays chess where they're just like king forward.
She's
like,
Bill
guy,
Belichick.
You're messing up the game. She's like, no, I'm doing this.
She's Bill Belichick. She plays chess when everybody else plays checkers.
Exactly.
Yep.
She's all about doing your job. Like, this is what you do here. Like,
Did you ever see like a picture of her when she was younger? It's like it's the casting for her being Natalie Dormer's character's grandmother is perfect. She
Oh my
looked just
god,
like her.
she's gorgeous too.
Yeah.
She was
absolutely.
a Bond girl. She was a Bond girl.
Yes,
Yes, she was.
She was in like I think it was on Your Majesty's Secret Service. She might have been in or something
Damn.
like that. Yeah.
X, what about you, man? What are your favorite episodes and shocking moments?
One of my favorite episodes was between the episode where Arya is acting like I think I'm going to say a server for Tyrion or Tywin.
Yes,
For Tywin.
yes.
Was it Sandstone?
Oh,
That place?
Harrenhal.
Harrenhal. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was an epic scene. That whole moment, that interaction, that episode for me, great. I like how he somewhat doesn't know who she is, but he still treats her as if she's someone that he can kind of threaten by. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
shocking moments for me, Red Wedding, obviously, is automatic.
Yeah, that's up there.
But a second shocking moment for me, or like I kind of want to put it first, was Daenerys coming out of the fire with the dragons. Because
okay, yeah,
season 1, you'd watch the show and Game of Thrones, so you assume you've seen some crazy stuff. The guy at the beginning, the White Walkers are coming, like kind of John Revere-ish, and then gets
that's Paul Revere.
Paul. Sorry. And then he gets beheaded for being a liar or deserter of the wall or whatever, you know what I mean? And then them saying like, that stuff doesn't exist anymore. Magic's been gone from this world since the dragons or whatever. And then end of that same season, the sound you hear is cries of dragons into the sky as this chick emerges from literally a burning where she just burned all the leaders of the Dothraki.
Oh yeah.
And emerges with 3 dragons. Like naked. That was super epic. Yes, she was also naked.
Yeah, she was, because she is fireproof, but not her clothes.
Yes, her clothes.
Her hair is though.
Fire
her hair is, yeah, but that's a part of her.
That's not in the not in the books. John said not in the books.
Right. She's supposed to have like purple eyes.
Purple eyes and silver hair. Yeah.
Yep.
Very nice.
But yeah. So for me, that was a very shocking moment. It was pretty awesome. And also when Arya escapes from Harrenhal, where all the guards are already bodied from the faceless man. Like just walk right out.
Jack and Hagar.
Yeah.
I liked when Tywin first found her, and like this was when she was still pretending to be a boy, and the only other person that knew she was a girl was Gendry. And then Tywin comes out, like, this one's a girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Tywin, you can't pull anything over on him.
Tywin's too good.
Yeah. He figured out just by how she speaks and her mannerisms that she's not some lowly friggin' little rat. That
she wasn't a peasant.
Yeah,
girl.
she was not a peasant guy. He figured that out. Yeah, Tywin. Yeah, Pete. I gotta agree with you. What a phenomenal casting job, and such a great actor to play Tywin Lannister. I mean, when he died, I mean, the show I think lost a little bit of something, but
that moment was also so epic.
It was.
He had a couple of moments. The boring dialogue stuff that there are still great moments of that throughout the show. That's where I grew to like Tywin, was because he would be having a high council meeting and Joffrey's in there throwing a temper tantrum.
I'm the king.
Yeah. And he goes, anyone who has to say I am the king is no king,
Right.
And then he ends up like storming off, and then Tyrion looks at him and goes, you just sent the king of the world to his bed without his supper. Like,
it's so great. It's just awesome. Yeah, man.
Like he just had so many great interactions when he's talking with Cersei and Jaime a lot of the times. Like it's just
it's
you want to love him and you want to hate him.
Right. It's like Peter Dinklage and Tyrion. I mean, we obviously didn't each choose him as our favorite, but in a way, I think he was on everybody's list.
Yeah.
Because
he's on everyone. That's why I kind of like.
He can't.
MVP.
You can't not like him.
He's
I feel
amazing.
like he's everybody's favorite character.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like Krillin in Dragon Ball Z. Like no one's gonna tell you Krillin's their favorite character, but everybody's like, oh yeah, I like Krillin.
I think there's plenty of hate for Krillin, and I don't know how much hate there is for. Of course there is, just because he dies all because
no one has
he
all the
time. This heat on Krillin.
Just keep in mind if there was no Krillin, Frieza would have won, and the planet.
I'm not saying anything against Krillin. I'm just saying some people do.
We'll have to have a deep Dragon Ball discussion someday. I mean, I love. Oh God! All right, Brian. Episode shocking moment.
So I like Hard Home. I like all the battle scenes. They're great. But like I said, I just think it's. I like moments. A lot of different moments that are important. Like I like Tyrion and Jon's early interactions, traveling up to the wall and stuff like that. Jon learned a lot, even though they're hard conversations for him to sit through because Tyrion is he's blunt and to the point, and he doesn't take offense because he can't, because he's a dwarf and he gets it all the time.
When know what you are and wear it as an armor.
Jon didn't understand that yet, and then he did when Tyrion taught him that.
Yeah, he did,
and he taught him a lot, and it set up an important rapport for later on in the show, because, as Jon says, he knows it sounds crazy that the dead are coming to attack. But it's Tyrion that's like,
right.
I trust him. He that's important. Very important. Dany attaining the Unsullied army.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. When
she offers up Drogon and hands him over
Right.
While listening to this guy say horrible things in High Valerian,
Which she knows.
but she's pretending like she doesn't, and then she answers him, and he goes, "Oh shit!" Like the look on his face. Then she looks to the Unsullied, tells them they're all free and can leave if they want, but if they want to stay, kill the Masters. They start killing the Masters. She looks at Drogon, Dracarys, and he burns him. So she got that whole entire 10,000 man army.
Eunuchs.
For nothing.
Yeah.
It's still men.
Yeah, they are. They can't be corrupted.
If anything, yeah, they're better than the regular guy for that
Grey
reason.
Worm's doing all right, man.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Grey Worm is quite corrupted.
Me Sunday. Oh.
I would corrupt for that as well.
Who wouldn't?
Shocking moments though. I mean, some of them have been said, like Ned Stark's beheading, Bran being pushed out the window, Shireen over and losing, the Night King turning the dragon into a white, the Red Wedding. Can't believe no one said this. Hold
the door.
Oh God!
Door.
Yeah.
Hold the door. That's the past. We're talking
Didn't
about
bother
the
me
present.
as much as it might have bothered other people.
That got me. That got me.
That got me too.
The whole time paradox.
That's
that whole
what was
loop.
cool for me.
It was like, wow,
It was
this is
really
incredible.
cool.
That was epic.
And one of
good writing.
Something that I have on both favorite moments and shocking moments is Tyrion's killing spree, his little mini killing spree, where he kills Shay, who is one of my most hated characters in the show.
She was bad.
She's terrible.
And then he went on to kill Tywin. And the first time he shot the bolt after Tywin called her a whore for I think the second time in that conversation, he surprised himself.
Yeah,
he shot the bolt and went, oh,
and
then was just like, I'm just gonna load the second one because I already did this first one. So but yeah, that I mean, it's, lots of things have been said that I agree with.
Absolutely. So, well, I mean, those are some great conversations and some great ideas, and a lot of this stuff, these are all just theories and stuff that we got going on when it regards to this sort of thing. Game of Thrones is obviously, it's near and dear to a lot of people. How many Comic-Cons, how many conventions do you see? How many Jon Snows do you see? How many Cersei Lannisters, how many Daenerys Stormborn Targaryens, the great Khaleesi of the Grass Sea do you see? And obviously it's reached further, I think, into the what's that word? The ethos of the world. I mean, it's just it's become this thing that we all love, and I was really happy today that we got to share that with you, as well as a little bit about ourselves. So basically, what I want to say is thank you so much for joining us. We really do truly appreciate you listening. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, subscribe, and join us again when we assemble next time for The Nerd is the Word by Nerd Bros Assemble. Thanks, guys.
Later.
Peace.